Why is it that so many of us find ourselves constantly checking her social media, watching every story she posts, analyzing every detail, yet feeling more disconnected and frustrated with each tap? You're smart enough to know it's not helping, but somehow you can't stop yourself from looking. Think about it. You tell yourself it's just casual interest, just keeping up with what she's doing. But deep down, you know it's becoming something else entirely. A digital ritual that's feeding an attachment rather than helping you move forward or create genuine connection. The truth is, this pattern of constantly watching her stories isn't just unhealthy, it's actively working against you. It's creating an illusion of closeness while actually widening the gap between you. You feel like you're part of her world because you see snippets of her day, but in reality, you're just an observer, watching from a distance that grows with every story you view. Have you ever considered what happens on the other side of the screen? Each time you watch her story, you become another number, another view, indistinguishable from dozens or hundreds of others. But what if you could step out of that crowd? What if, instead of being another nameless viewer, you could become someone she actually wonders about? The psychology behind our social media habits reveals something fascinating. We've confused digital presence with actual connection. We believe that by keeping up with someone's online activities, we're maintaining a relationship. But we're not. We're just consuming content. And in doing so, we're training our brains to be satisfied with this one-sided interaction that offers the appearance of connection without any of its substance. You were praised for being smart, for figuring things out quickly, for understanding people and situations. But that intelligence has become a prison when it comes to relationships. You analyze her posts, interpret her captions, study who she's with and what she's doing, using your analytical mind to create stories about what it all means for you. But these stories are just that. Fabrications built on fragments, not reality. Now, I want you to pause and really consider something. What would happen if you simply stopped watching? If you disappeared from her viewer list? If the name she's grown accustomed to seeing suddenly wasn't there anymore? This is where something powerful happens. When we're constantly available, even just as viewers, we become predictable, expected, background noise. But when that predictable presence suddenly changes, it creates a psychological phenomenon known as a pattern interrupt. And pattern interrupts catch attention. So here's what I'm suggesting. Stop watching her stories. Not just for a day or two, but completely. Disengage from this one-sided relationship where you give your attention and receive nothing meaningful in return. This isn't about playing games or manipulation. It's about reclaiming your psychological freedom and creating space for something real to potentially develop. When you stop watching her digital highlights, 3 important things happen. First, you break the dopamine cycle that's keeping you addicted to these meaningless updates. Those little hits of excitement when you see she's posted something new are training your brain like a lab rat pressing a lever for treats. By stopping, you're rewiring your neural pathways toward healthier patterns of connection. Second, you create mystery. Human psychology is wired to be curious about changes in patterns. When someone who regularly engages with our content suddenly doesn't, we notice. We wonder. And wondering is powerful. It puts you in her thoughts in a way that being a passive viewer never could. Third, and most importantly, you reclaim your time and emotional energy. The mental space you've been using to process and analyze her life becomes available for your own growth, for building genuine connections with others who are present and engaged with you. But let's be honest, just stopping isn't enough. The void needs to be filled with something better. So what should you do instead? Focus on creating a life that's genuinely interesting and fulfilling, not for her benefit, not to post about, but for yourself. This is where real attraction begins, with authenticity and self-development. Invest in your passions. What lights you up? What could you talk about for hours? Whether it's rock climbing, jazz history, cooking, or quantum physics, dive deep into what fascinates you. Passion is magnetic, and developing expertise in areas you love creates both confidence and conversation material that goes beyond surface-level small talk. Expand your social circle. Connect with new people who share your interests. Real-life, in-person interactions provide the kind of rich social nourishment that no amount of social media ever can. These connections build your social intelligence and create opportunities for genuine relationships. Work on your relationship with yourself. This sounds cliché, but it's foundational. The way you talk to yourself, the standards you hold yourself to, your self-awareness and emotional regulation. These determine how you show up in every interaction. Therapy, meditation, journaling, find what helps you understand your patterns and grow beyond them. Challenge yourself physically. Our bodies and minds are connected in ways we're only beginning to understand. Setting and achieving physical goals, whether it's running a 5K, mastering a yoga pose, or simply establishing a consistent workout routine, builds discipline and confidence that translates to every area of life. Now, here's where something interesting happens. As you become more invested in your own life, as you build connections and experiences that fulfill you, you naturally become more captivating. Not in a calculated way, but in the most authentic way possible, by becoming a person who's engaged with life. And if there ever is a moment to reconnect with her, it won't be from the weak position of someone who's been watching from the sidelines. It will be from the strength of someone who has been living fully. This is when real connection becomes possible, when you meet as equals, both bringing full, rich lives to the table. Not as a viewer and content creator, but as two complete individuals with stories to share. The irony is that by stopping your constant attention to her stories, you actually create the conditions where she might become genuinely interested in yours. Not your Instagram stories, your real story, who you're becoming, what matters to you, the life you're building. Think about it. We're all drawn to people who have their own gravity, who seem complete within themselves. There's a quiet confidence that comes from living on your own terms that's infinitely more attractive than the neediness of constant digital attention. So how do you practically implement this change? It starts with awareness and decisive action. First, you need to be honest with yourself about how this habit is affecting you. Notice the emotions that come up when you watch her stories. Notice how you feel afterward, more connected or more isolated, energized or drained. The awareness itself is powerful. Then make a clean break. Don't just reduce your viewing, stop completely. Delete the app if necessary, or use focus features to block access. The first few days will be the hardest as your brain craves that familiar dopamine hit. But like any habit, the urges will fade with time. Fill the gaps immediately. Have a plan for what you'll do instead when the urge to check her profile hits. Call a friend, open a book, do push-ups, anything that redirects your energy into something productive. Set goals that have nothing to do with relationships or social media. Working towards something meaningful creates forward momentum that naturally pulls you away from unproductive fixations. Find accountability. Tell a trusted friend what you're doing and why. Sometimes we need external support to maintain our resolve when internal motivation wavers. Remember, this isn't about becoming unavailable forever or shutting down emotionally. It's about creating healthy boundaries that allow for real connection to develop, whether with her or someone else who's a better match for the person you're becoming. The space you create by stepping back from digital pseudo-connections is where real life happens. It's where you rediscover parts of yourself that may have been neglected while you were focused on someone else's curated highlights. And yes, there's always the possibility that she notices your absence, that she wonders where you went. That curiosity may lead to genuine interaction, but that's not the goal. It's just a potential side effect of making choices that are healthy for you regardless of her response. The real transformation happens within you. As you shift from observer to participant in your own life, everything changes. Your confidence, your conversation skills, your ability to form meaningful connections, all improve when you're fully present rather than mentally scrolling through someone else's reality. So stop watching her stories, not as a tactic, but as a first step towards something better. Create a life so engaging that you don't have time to analyze someone else's highlights. Become so invested in your own growth that her posts lose their power over your emotions. And in doing so, you may find that you become the kind of person who doesn't need to wonder about her anymore, because you're too busy living a story worth telling. This is where real attraction begins, not with views or likes or carefully crafted comments, but with authentic presence and purposeful living.